His shirt tore open. The fabric ripped from collar to spine, exposing bare skin under the blazing sun. The recruits erupted in laughter, until they saw what was underneath. A faded black tattoo. A coiled viper strangling a shattered skull. The laughter died. The colonel, a man who'd seen 3 wars, went pale. His hand trembled as it snapped to his forehead in a salute. "Who gave you that mark?" His voice cracked. The single dad they'd mocked for 3 weeks stood there, shirt hanging in shreds, and said 5 words that changed everything. Ghost Viper. I was his last. But that moment didn't come easy. What happened before? That's the real story. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from? Let me know your city so I can see how far this story travels. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming. The minivan pulled into the NATO training camp at 0600 sharp. It was a 2009 Honda Odyssey. Dented bumper, faded blue paint, a child's car seat still strapped in the back. Crayon drawings taped to the dashboard. Stick figures holding hands under a yellow sun. The word Daddy scrawled in purple marker. The gate guard looked at the vehicle, then at the driver, then back at the vehicle. "You lost, sir?" Marcus Cole killed the engine. He was 38 years old, but the gray in his stubble and the lines around his eyes made him look older. His clothes were clean, but worn. A plain gray t-shirt, cargo pants from a surplus store, boots that had seen better decades. "Cadet Marcus Cole," he said, "reporting for training." The guard blinked, checked his clipboard, checked it again. You're serious?" "Yes." The guard waved him through, already reaching for his radio. Marcus could hear the static-laced voice as he drove past. "You're not going to believe this one." He parked at the far end of the lot, away from the jeeps and trucks that looked like they belonged there. For a moment, he sat still. His hand reached for the photo tucked into the sun visor. A little girl with brown pigtails and a gap-toothed smile, holding a sign that said, "Go, Daddy!" He touched her face with his thumb. "I'll make you proud, sweetheart," he whispered. "I promise." Then he grabbed his worn backpack, stepped out of the minivan, and walked toward the training yard. The laughter started before he reached the gate. A group of recruits, young, fit, loud, stood near the equipment shed, their eyes locked on the minivan. One of them, a tall kid with a buzz cut and shoulders like a linebacker, pointed and howled. "Holy crap, boys! Look at this!" Another one, lean, cocky, with a smile that never reached his eyes, jogged over for a better look. His name was Tyler Briggs, 24 years old, son of a retired general, and he'd never been told no in his life. "Is that a car seat?" Tyler pressed his face against the window. "Oh my God, there's crayons in here! Actual crayons!" The group roared. Marcus kept walking. His pace didn't change. His face didn't change. Tyler noticed. He didn't like being ignored. "Hey!" He jogged to catch up, falling into step beside Marcus. "Hey, old-timer, I'm talking to you." Marcus stopped, turned, looked at him. Tyler was a head taller, 50 pounds heavier, half his age, and absolutely certain of his own superiority. "You lost?" Tyler asked, grimming. "Retirement home's about 30 miles east. I can draw you a map. Use small words." The group howled again. Marcus studied him for a moment. Then he said, "I'm a cadet, same as you." Tyler's grin flickered. "You're joking." "No." "You're what, 40? 45? 38. Same thing." Tyler looked back at his friends. "Guys, we got a grandpa joining up. Someone call the nursing home. Tell them we found their missing patient." More laughter, louder now. A stocky kid with red hair pushed through the group. His name was Derek Holt, and he had the kind of face that was built for sneering. "What's the matter, Pops? Wife kick you out? Kids don't want you around no more?" Marcus's jaw tightened, just slightly, just for a second. Derek saw it. His sneer widened. "Oh, wait," Derek said. "I heard about you. You're that guy. The single dad." He said the words like they tasted bad. "What happened? She leave you? Find someone younger?" Marcus didn't answer. "Or maybe she died," Derek continued, his voice dripping with mock sympathy. "That it? Wifey croaked, and now you got nothing better to do than play soldier?" The laughter stopped. Even Tyler shifted uncomfortably. That was a line. But Marcus didn't flinch, didn't blink. He looked at Derek the way a man looks at a stain on his shoe. "You done?" Marcus asked. Derek's face reddened. "What did you say to me?" "I asked if you were done." The two men stared at each other. Derek was 26, 210 pounds, and had never backed down from anyone in his life. Marcus was 38, 170 pounds, and looked like he hadn't slept in 6 years. Derek stepped closer. "You got a problem, old man?" "No," Marcus said. "Just wondering if you're finished." The tension stretched. Derek's fists clenched. For a moment, it looked like he might swing. Then a voice cut through the air like a blade. "What the hell is going on here?" Captain William Harrow was 6'4", 240 pounds of muscle and bad attitude. He'd served 3 tours in Afghanistan, 2 in Iraq, and had a face that looked like it had been carved from granite by an angry sculptor. He walked toward the group with a kind of stride that made people move. They moved. "I asked a question," Harrow said. His voice was calm. That made it worse. "What is going on here?" Tyler stepped forward, snapping to attention. "Sir, just welcoming the new recruit, sir." Harrow's eyes moved to Marcus, took in the gray stubble, the worn clothes, the tired eyes. "You Cole?" "Yes, sir." "The single father?" A few snickers from the group. Harrow's head snapped toward them, and the snickers died. "Yes, sir," Marcus said. Harrow walked a slow circle around him, studying, judging. "You're 38 years old." "Yes, sir." "Got a kid at home?" "Yes, sir. Daughter, 6 years old." "Who's watching her?" "My sister, sir." Harrow stopped in front of him. They were the same height, but Harrow was wider, younger, meaner. "Why are you here, Cole?" Marcus met his eyes. "To train, sir." "That's not an answer. That's a bumper sticker." Harrow leaned in. "Why are you here?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "My daughter asked me if I was ever brave." Harrow waited. "I couldn't answer her," Marcus continued. "I want to be able to answer her." Someone in the group laughed. It was cut short by Harrow's glare. The captain studied Marcus for a long moment. Then he stepped back. "Get in line, Cole. Don't slow us down." "Yes, sir." Marcus walked to the end of the formation. The other recruits parted for him, not out of respect, but like he was contagious. Tyler leaned over to Derek. $20 as he washes out by Wednesday." "I'll take that bet," Derek whispered back. "I say tomorrow." The first meal was a battlefield. The mess hall was loud, crowded, full of the kind of aggressive energy that young men generate when they're trying to prove something to each other. Marcus took his tray, a scoop of mashed potatoes, a gray slab of meat, some vegetables that had given up on life, and looked for a place to sit. Every table was full, or at least every table became full the moment he approached. He found a corner spot at the end of a long bench, sat down, started eating. The food was bad. He'd had worse. Well, well, well. Tyler slid onto the bench across from him. Derek sat on his left. A third recruit, a wiry kid named Jason, with mean eyes and a meaner smile, sat on his right. Marcus kept eating. "So," Tyler said, stealing a roll from Marcus's tray. "Tell us about yourself, Daddy-O. What's your story? Wife run off with a mailman? Pool boy? Her personal trainer?" Marcus chewed, swallowed, took another bite. "Silent treatment?" Derek grabbed his water glass and drained it. "That's rude, old man. We're trying to have a conversation." Marcus set down his fork, looked at each of them in turn. "My wife died," he said, 3 years ago. Cancer. I've been raising my daughter alone ever since. I'm here because I promised her I'd do something that mattered." He picked up his fork again. "That answer your questions?" The 3 men exchanged glances. For a moment, just a moment, something like shame flickered across Tyler's face. Then it was gone. "That's a sad story," Tyler said. "Really, it breaks my heart." He leaned forward. "But here's the thing, Grandpa. This isn't a support group. This isn't therapy. This is a training camp for soldiers. Real soldiers, not washed-up widowers looking for a midlife crisis." Marcus kept eating. "You don't belong here," Tyler continued. "You're going to slow us down. You're going to get someone hurt. And when you wash out, and you will wash out, you're going to go back to your sad little life and your sad little daughter and explain that Daddy couldn't hack it." Marcus set down his fork again. This time, when he looked at Tyler, there was something different in his eyes. Something cold. "You finished?" Marcus asked. "Not even close." "Good." Marcus stood up, tray in hand. "Because I'm done listening." He walked away, dumped his tray, and left the mess hall. Tyler watched him go, his jaw tight. "That guy's got a death wish," Jason said. "No," Tyler replied. "He's just too stupid to know when to quit." That night, in the barracks, Marcus found his bunk. It was the worst one in the building, bottom rack, near the latrine, with a mattress that felt like it was stuffed with rocks. His gear had been accidentally scattered. His pillow was missing. Someone had written "Grandpa" in shaving cream on his locker. He cleaned up the shaving cream without comment, found his gear, made his bed with the kind of precision that came from years of practice. Then he sat on the edge of the mattress and pulled out his phone. One new video message. He pressed play. A little girl's face filled the screen. Brown pigtails, gap-toothed smile, eyes that sparkled with pure, uncomplicated love. "Hi, Daddy. It's me, Lily." Marcus smiled. For the first time all day, the tension in his shoulders eased. "Aunt Sarah says you're at camp learning to be a soldier. That's so cool. Are you making friends? Are there bad guys there? Are you going to beat up the bad guys?" His smile widened. "I miss you, Daddy. I drew you a picture. It's you and me and Mommy in heaven watching us. I put it on my wall so she can see how brave you are." His smile faltered. His eyes grew wet. "Come home soon, okay? I love you this much." She stretched her arms as wide as they could go. "Bye, Daddy. Be brave." The video ended. Marcus sat there in the dark, the phone clutched in his hands, and let himself feel it. The grief, the love, the fear, the determination, all of it washing over him like a wave. He looked at the screen, at her frozen smile. "I will, baby," he whispered. "I promise." The next morning started at 0500. The recruits assembled in the training yard, bleary-eyed and grumbling. Captain Harrow stood at the front, hands clasped behind his back, looking like he'd been awake for hours. "Today," he announced, "we test your limits. Push-ups, sit-ups, sprints, burpees. Anyone who can't keep up gets latrine duty for a week." The recruits groaned. "Did I ask for your opinion?" Harrow bellowed. "Drop and give me 50." They dropped. Marcus hit the ground with everyone else. His muscles screamed. He wasn't 25 anymore, and his body knew it. But he pushed through. 1, 2, 3. His form was perfect, controlled, precise. Tyler, 2 spots down, was already breathing hard. "What's the matter, Briggs?" Harrow stood over him. "Too many donuts?" "No, sir," Tyler grunted, pushing harder. Harrow moved down the line, stopped at Marcus. "You're still here, Cole." "Yes, sir." "Surprised you made it through the night." "So am I, sir." Something that might have been a smile flickered across Harrow's face. Then it was gone. "Keep up, old man. Don't make me regret this." The sprints were worse. A quarter-mile, full speed, repeat. 10 times, in full gear. By the 5th sprint, half the recruits were bent over, gasping for air. By the 8th, 2 had dropped out entirely, stumbling to the sidelines to vomit. Marcus kept running. His lungs burned, his legs screamed, sweat poured down his face, stinging his eyes. But he kept running. Tyler was right beside him, stride for stride. "Not bad," Tyler gasped, "for an old man." "Thanks," Marcus replied, "for the motivation." Tyler's eyes narrowed. He pushed harder. Marcus matched him. They crossed the finish line together, both of them collapsing onto the grass, chests heaving. "You're tougher than you look," Tyler admitted, still catching his breath. "I have to be," Marcus said. "I've got someone waiting for me." Tyler didn't respond. But for a moment, just a moment, something like respect flickered in his eyes. Then Derek jogged up, red-faced and furious. "You trying to show us up, old man?" "Just trying to keep up." "Bull," Derek spat on the ground. "You think you're special? Think you're better than us?" "No." Marcus sat up, wiping the sweat from his face. "I think I'm a father who made a promise to his daughter. That's all." Derek's face twisted. "Save the Hallmark crap. This isn't a movie." "No," Marcus agreed. "It's not." He stood up, brushed off his pants, and walked toward the water station. Derek watched him go, his fists clenched, his jaw tight. "I hate that guy," he muttered. "Get in line," Tyler replied. The afternoon brought the obstacle course. A brutal gauntlet of walls to climb, ropes to swing, mud pits to crawl through. Harrow explained the rules. Finish in under 15 minutes or face consequences. The recruits lined up. The whistle blew. They ran. Marcus was slower off the start. His legs were still burning from the sprints. But he moved with a methodical efficiency that kept him in the middle of the pack. Wall after wall, rope after rope. He didn't rush. He didn't panic. He just kept moving. Until the mud pit. It was 20 feet long, 3 feet deep, and filled with something that smelled like it had been rotting since the Cold War. Marcus dropped to his belly and started crawling. Halfway through, a boot came down on his back. Hard. He went face first into the mud, the foul water filling his mouth, his nose. He came up coughing, gasping. Jason stood over him, grimming. "Oops," Jason said. "My bad. Thought you were a rock." Marcus wiped the mud from his eyes, looked up at Jason, said nothing. "What's the matter, Grandpa? Can't take a little hazing?" Marcus spat out a mouthful of mud. Then, slowly, deliberately, he got back on his belly and started crawling again. Jason laughed. "That's what I thought. No fight in you at all." But as Jason turned to continue the course, Marcus's hand shot out, fast, precise, and grabbed his ankle. Jason went down hard, face first into the mud. He came up sputtering, furious. "You son of a—" But Marcus was already gone, crawling toward the end of the pit, his pace unchanged. He finished the course in 14 minutes and 32 seconds. Not the best time, not the worst. Right in the middle. But he finished. And that, Marcus knew, was what mattered. That night, in the barracks, the hazing continued. Someone had replaced his toothpaste with muscle cream. His towel was missing. His boots had been filled with shaving cream. Marcus cleaned up the mess, found his towel hanging in the latrine, emptied his boots without complaint. He was lying on his bunk, eyes closed, when a shadow fell over him. He opened his eyes. Tyler stood there, arms crossed, face unreadable. "You know," Tyler said, "most guys would have quit by now." "I'm not most guys." "No," Tyler studied him for a moment. "No, you're not." Silence stretched between them. "Why do you care," Tyler finally asked, "about proving yourself to a bunch of punks half your age?" Marcus sat up slowly. "I don't care about proving myself to you. I care about proving myself to my daughter. There's a difference. She's 6. She won't remember any of this." "Yes, she will." Marcus's voice was quiet but firm. "Kids remember everything. Every promise you keep, every promise you break, every time you showed up, every time you didn't." He looked at Tyler. "I'm going to show up, no matter what." Tyler was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned and walked away without another word. The days blurred together. More training, more sprints, more obstacle courses, more meals eaten alone, more pranks, more mockery. More of the same, over and over, until it felt like it would never end. Marcus endured it all. He woke before dawn. He trained until his body screamed. He took the insults, the accidents, the constant humiliation. And every night he watched Lily's video messages. Her gap-toothed smile, her boundless enthusiasm, her unshakable faith in him, and found the strength to do it all again. But something was changing. Not in the others, in Marcus. The fatigue was wearing him down. The isolation was getting to him. The constant attacks, physical, verbal, emotional, were taking their toll. He could feel himself fraying at the edges, his patience thinning, his control slipping. One week in, during a particularly brutal hand-to-hand combat session, Derek went too far. They were paired together for a grappling drill. Standard practice. Pin your opponent. Get them to tap out. Nothing personal. But Derek made it personal. He drove his elbow into Marcus's ribs, hard, deliberate, aimed to hurt. Marcus gasped, his grip loosening. Derek swept his legs and slammed him to the mat. "Tap out, old man," Derek hissed in his ear. "Tap out and go home to your brat." Something snapped. Marcus surged upward with a strength that surprised both of them. He reversed the hold, twisted Derek's arm behind his back, and applied pressure. Just enough to make Derek's face contort with pain. "Don't," Marcus said, his voice low and dangerous. "Ever talk about my daughter again." Derek tried to break free. Couldn't. The hold was too perfect, too precise, too practiced. The kind of hold you don't learn in basic training. "Who the hell are you?" Derek gasped. Marcus released him, stood up, walked away. Behind him, Derek lay on the mat, clutching his arm, staring at Marcus's retreating back with something new in his eyes. fear. The whispers started that afternoon. "Did you see what he did to Derek? That hold wasn't standard. That was something else. Who the hell is this guy?" Marcus ignored them. He ate alone, trained alone, kept to himself. But he could feel the shift in how people looked at him. Less mockery, more curiosity, and something else. Suspicion. That night, Captain Harrow called him into his office. Marcus stood at attention in front of the desk, hands behind his back, face neutral. Harrow studied him for a long moment. "That hold you used on Holt," Harrow finally said. "Where'd you learn it?" "Sir?" "Don't play dumb with me, Cole. That was a jiu-jitsu arm lock with a pressure point modification. I've seen it twice in my career. Both times from operators who'd spent time in places that don't exist on any map." Harrow leaned forward. "Where did you learn it?" Marcus was silent. "Your file says you're a construction worker. Widower, single father. Nothing special." Harrow tapped the folder on his desk. "But files can lie. I've seen enough to know that." He stood up, walked around the desk, stopped inches from Marcus's face. "So I'm going to ask you one more time. Who are you, Cole?" Marcus met his eyes. "I'm a father," he said, "trying to keep a promise to his daughter." Harrow stared at him. Marcus stared back. Neither blinked. Finally, Harrow stepped back. "Get out of my office, Cole." "Yes, sir." Marcus walked to the door. "Cole," he stopped, hand on the doorknob. "Whatever you're hiding," Harrow said, "it's going to come out eventually. It always does." Marcus didn't turn around. "I know, sir." He walked out, closing the door behind him. In the hallway, he paused. His hand went to his shoulder, to the spot on his back where the tattoo lay hidden beneath his shirt. The coiled viper, the shattered skull, the mark that had defined him for so long, the mark he'd spent 3 years trying to forget. He closed his eyes. Not yet, he thought. Not yet. But deep down, he knew Harrow was right. The truth always comes out. And when it did, everything would change. The next morning came faster than Marcus expected. He hadn't slept well. Harrow's words kept echoing in his head, bouncing off the walls of his skull like bullets in a steel room. Whatever you're hiding, it's going to come out eventually. The captain was right. Marcus knew he was right. But knowing and accepting were two different things. He rolled out of his bunk at 0445, 15 minutes before the wake-up call. His body ached in places he'd forgotten existed. His ribs, where Derek's elbow had connected, throbbed with every breath. His legs felt like they'd been filled with wet concrete. But he got up anyway. He always got up. In the latrine, he splashed cold water on his face and stared at his reflection in the cracked mirror. The man looking back at him was tired, older than his years, gray creeping into his stubble, lines carved deep around his eyes. But there was something else there, too. Something harder. Something that wouldn't break. "You can do this," he whispered to himself. "For Lily. You can do this." He dried his face, squared his shoulders, and walked out to meet whatever the day had waiting for him. It was worse than he expected. The whispers had spread overnight, morphing and growing like a virus. By breakfast, the entire camp knew about the hold Marcus had used on Derek. Stories were being traded like currency, each version more exaggerated than the last. "I heard he almost broke Derek's arm. I heard Derek was crying. I heard the old man's ex-military, special forces or something. No way. Look at him. He drives a minivan." Marcus sat at his usual corner table, eating his usual tasteless breakfast, pretending not to hear. But he heard everything. Every whisper, every speculation, every theory about who he really was. Tyler slid into the seat across from him, his tray clattering against the table. "You're famous, old man." Marcus didn't look up. "I'm eating." "Yeah, I can see that. Riveting stuff." Tyler leaned forward, lowering his voice. "What you did to Derek yesterday, that wasn't basic training. That was something else." He was talking about my daughter. "So you almost ripped his arm off?" "I let him go, didn't I?" Tyler studied him for a long moment. "Who are you, Cole? Really?" Marcus finally looked up. His eyes met Tyler's, and for a moment, Tyler saw something there. Something cold and deep and dangerous that made him lean back instinctively. "I'm a father," Marcus said. "That's all you need to know." He stood up, tray in hand, and walked away. Tyler watched him go, his brow furrowed. Then Derek dropped into the seat Marcus had vacated, his arm wrapped in a compression bandage. "I want that guy gone," Derek said, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. "I want him out of this camp. What do you suggest? Make his life hell, more than it already is. Push him until he breaks." Tyler was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "All right, let's see how much the old man can take." The campaign started that afternoon. During the rifle cleaning drill, Marcus's weapon went missing. He found it 20 minutes later, disassembled and scattered across the latrine floor, the pieces floating in toilet water. He fished them out without complaint, cleaned them, reassembled them, made it back to formation with 30 seconds to spare. Harrow noticed, said nothing. During the afternoon run, someone had switched his boots. The ones he wore were 2 sizes too small, his toes cramping painfully with every step. He ran anyway, finishing in the middle of the pack, his feet bleeding into his socks. At dinner, his tray was knocked from his hands, twice, by accident. He ate what he could salvage from the floor, then went back for seconds. The line closed the moment he reached it. He went to bed hungry. And through it all, he didn't say a word. Didn't complain. Didn't fight back. Just absorbed it all like a sponge absorbing water, letting it soak into him, letting it add to the weight he was already carrying. But the weight was getting heavier. On the 4th day of the campaign, Elena found him sitting alone behind the equipment shed. He hadn't heard her approach, which bothered him more than he wanted to admit. In another life, no one could have snuck up on him, but exhaustion was making him sloppy. Careless. "You look terrible," Elena said. Marcus glanced up. She was tall, dark-haired, with sharp eyes that saw more than they should. She was one of the few recruits who hadn't joined in the mockery, one of the few who seemed to exist outside the camp's social hierarchy. "Thanks," he said dryly. "You really know how to make a guy feel special." Elena sat down beside him, close enough to talk quietly, far enough to maintain distance. "They're trying to break you." "I know. Is it working?" Marcus was silent for a moment. Then he said, "Ask me again in a week." Elena reached into her pocket and pulled out a protein bar. She set it on the ground between them. "You haven't eaten a full meal in 3 days," she said. "I've been watching." "Keeping tabs on me?" "Someone has to." She stood up, brushing off her pants. "Don't let them win, Cole. Whatever you're carrying, whatever you're hiding, don't let them take it from you." She walked away without waiting for a response. Marcus looked at the protein bar for a long moment. Then he picked it up, tore it open, and ate it in 3 bites. It was the best thing he'd tasted in days. That night, he called Lily. It was late, way past her bedtime, but his sister Sarah answered on the first ring. "Marcus? Is everything okay?" Yeah, Yeah, I'm fine. He paused, struggling to find the words. I needed to hear her voice. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Hold on. There was rustling on the other end, then a sleepy voice that made Marcus's heart clench. Daddy? Hey, sweetheart. I'm sorry I woke you up. It's okay. I was dreaming about you. He could hear her yawning. Are you being brave? Marcus closed his eyes. The barracks were dark around him, filled with the sounds of sleeping recruits. In a few hours, he'd be back in the grind. More hazing, more humiliation, more of everything trying to tear him down. But right now, in this moment, there was only her voice. I'm trying, baby, he whispered. I'm trying so hard. I know you are, Daddy. You always try hard. She yawned again. Aunt Sarah says you're going to be a hero. Did she now? Uh-huh. She says heroes never give up. Do you give up, Daddy? No, sweetheart. Never. Promise? I promise. Okay. Her voice was fading, sleep pulling her back under. I love you, Daddy. I love you more than ice cream and puppies and unicorns combined. Marcus smiled, his eyes wet. I love you too, baby. More than you'll ever know. The line went quiet. She'd fallen asleep, still holding the phone. Marcus sat there in the darkness, listening to her breathe, and felt something shift inside him. The weight was still there, would always be there, but it felt different now. Less like a burden, more like armor. He thought about what she'd said. Heroes never give up. He thought about what he'd promised. Never. And he thought about the tattoo on his back, the coiled viper, the shattered skull, the mark of everything he'd tried to leave behind. Maybe, he thought, he couldn't leave it behind. Maybe he wasn't supposed to. Maybe he just needed to remember who he was. The 5th day of the campaign was the breaking point. Not for Marcus, for them. It started during the navigation drill. The recruits were given maps, compasses, and 2 hours to reach a checkpoint 5 miles through dense forest. Standard exercise. Nothing special. Except someone had switched Marcus's map. He realized it 10 minutes in, when the terrain didn't match what he was seeing. The compass bearing was wrong. The landmarks didn't exist. He was holding a map of a completely different region. He stopped walking, looked at the useless paper in his hands. In the trees behind him, he could hear laughter. Tyler, Derek, Jason, watching from a distance, waiting to see him fail. Marcus folded the map carefully, put it in his pocket, and started walking. He didn't need a map. He'd spent 6 years navigating terrain far more hostile than this. Jungles, deserts, mountain ranges that didn't appear on any official survey. He knew how to read the land, how to follow the sun, how to listen to the forest, and let it guide him. He reached the checkpoint in 47 minutes. First place. The officer at the checkpoint stared at him. Cole, how did you... There's no trail from the direction you came. Made my own, sir. Without a map? Didn't need one, sir. The officer wrote something in his notebook, his expression troubled. Marcus could guess what it said. More questions, more suspicion, more attention he didn't want. When Tyler arrived 20 minutes later, second place, and furious about it, he found Marcus sitting on a log, drinking water like nothing had happened. How? Tyler demanded. We switched your map. You shouldn't have made it at all. Marcus shrugged. Guess I got lucky. Bull! Tyler stepped closer, his face red. Who the hell are you? Asked and answered. No, you don't get to do that. Tyler grabbed Marcus's collar, yanking him to his feet. I've been watching you, old man. The way you move, the way you fight, the way you navigate without a damn map. That's not luck. That's training. Serious training. Marcus didn't resist, didn't fight back, just looked at Tyler with those calm, cold eyes. "Let go," he said quietly. "Make me." The forest went silent. Even the birds stopped singing. Marcus could have done it, could have taken Tyler apart in seconds, broken his grip, swept his legs, put him on the ground before he knew what was happening. He could feel the old instincts stirring, the training that had been burned into his muscle memory through years of pain and repetition. But Lily's voice was in his head. Heroes never give up. And heroes, he knew, didn't hurt people just because they could. "I said, let go," Marcus repeated. "Please." Something in his voice, the softness of it, the control, made Tyler hesitate. His grip loosened slightly. "What's going on here?" They both turned. Captain Harrow was striving toward them, his face thunderous. Tyler released Marcus immediately. "Nothing, sir. Just a conversation." "Looked like more than that to me." Harrow's eyes moved between them. "Cole, you made it here first?" "Yes, sir." "With the doctored map?" Marcus blinked. "Sir?" "Don't play dumb. I know what happened." Harrow turned to Tyler, his voice dropping to a growl. "You think I don't see everything that goes on in my camp, Briggs? You think I'm blind?" Tyler's face paled. "Sir, Save it." Harrow stepped closer to him. "You've been running a harassment campaign against a fellow cadet. That ends now. Understood?" "Yes, sir." "I didn't hear you." "Yes, sir." Harrow turned to Marcus. "And you? How did you make it here without a proper map?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I've had practice, sir, navigating difficult terrain." "What kind of practice?" "The kind that doesn't show up in my files, sir." Harrow stared at him. Marcus stared back. The silence stretched. "All right," Harrow finally said. "Keep your secrets, Cole. For now." He pointed at both of them. "But this petty crap stops today. I need soldiers, not children. Clear?" "Clear, sir," they said in unison. Harrow walked away, his boots crunching on the forest floor. Tyler and Marcus stood there, neither moving, neither speaking. Then Tyler said, "This isn't over." "I know," Marcus replied. They walked back to camp in silence, 5 feet apart, a gulf between them that felt wider than any ocean. The harassment slowed after that. Not stopped, never stopped, but it became more subtle, harder to prove. A shoulder check here, a muttered insult there. Small things that added up, drop by drop, into a constant drip of hostility. Marcus endured it all. He had no choice. Every time he wanted to quit, every time the weight became too much, he thought of Lily's face, her voice, her unshakable faith in him, and he kept going. But the camp was changing. He could feel it in the way people looked at him. Less mockery, more curiosity. The story of the navigation drill had spread, and it had planted seeds of doubt in minds that had been certain of his weakness. Who was the old man with the tired eyes in the minivan? How had he navigated without a map? What else could he do? Elena found him again, a week after the navigation drill. This time, she didn't pretend it was coincidence. "I need to ask you something," she said, sitting down beside him on the barrack steps. "You can ask. Doesn't mean I'll answer." "Fair enough." She pulled out a small notebook, flipped to a page covered in handwriting. "I've been keeping track. Your rifle times, your navigation skills, your hand-to-hand combat techniques. Individually, they're impressive. Together, they paint a picture." Marcus said nothing. "You're not a construction worker," Elena continued. "You might have been, Once. But before that, she looked at him, you were something else. Something dangerous. Why do you care? Because I know what it's like to hide who you are. Her voice softened. To pretend to be less than you are, because it's easier. Safer. Marcus studied her for a long moment. What are you hiding, Elena? She smiled, but there was no humor in it. Ask me again when this is over. Maybe I'll answer. She stood up, tucking her notebook away. Whatever you're carrying, Cole, it's going to come out eventually. The question is whether it comes out on your terms or theirs. She started to walk away, then paused. My advice? Make it yours. She left him sitting there, her words echoing in the evening air. Make it yours. He thought about that as the days passed. Thought about it during the early morning runs, the endless drills, the constant pressure that never seemed to let up. Thought about it when Tyler's eyes met his across the training yard, full of suspicion and something that might have been fear. Make it yours. But how? How do you reveal a past you've spent 3 years trying to bury? How do you explain a tattoo that marked you as one of the deadliest operatives in a unit that officially never existed? How do you tell your 6-year-old daughter that the father she adored had once been a killer? The answer came 2 weeks into training, during a rifle qualification drill. Standard exercise, 5 shots, 400 meters, accuracy counted. Most recruits struggled. The distance was challenging, the wind unpredictable, the pressure intense. Tyler went first, 4 hits out of 5, respectable. Derek went next, 3 hits, frustration evident. Then Marcus stepped up. He settled into position, the rifle an extension of his body. His breathing slowed. His heartbeat steadied. The world around him faded, the watching recruits, the whispering wind, the weight of expectation. Until there was nothing but the target and the trigger. 5 shots, 5 hits, dead center. No hesitation, no adjustment. The range officer stared at the target, then at Marcus, then back at the target. That's impossible, he murmured. Harrow was watching from the observation post. He didn't say anything, but Marcus could feel his eyes burning into his back. More questions, more suspicion, more attention. Good, Marcus thought. Let them wonder, because Elena was right. The truth was coming, one way or another. And when it did, Marcus wanted it to be on his terms. He wanted them to know exactly who they'd been mocking. The other recruits were quiet as Marcus walked off the range. No jokes, no insults, just silence, the kind that fills the space when something fundamental has shifted. Tyler intercepted him near the water station. 5 for 5, Tyler said, at 400 meters, with wind compensation. So that's not luck, Cole. That's not practice. That's professional level shooting. Tyler's voice was low, intense. I've seen competition shooters who can't do what you just did. I've seen Army Rangers who can't do what you just did. He stepped closer. Who trained you? Marcus took a long drink of water, then wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. Someone who believed in results over excuses. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. Tyler's jaw tightened. I used to think you were just some sad old man with a death wish. Now I think you're something else entirely. He shook his head slowly. I just can't figure out what. Maybe you should stop trying. Maybe I can't. They stood there, 2 men from different worlds, both hiding things, both unwilling to back down. Then Derek appeared, his face twisted with barely contained rage. 5 for 5, Derek spat. You think that makes you special? You think that changes anything? I think it makes me qualified to be here, Marcus replied calmly, which is more than I can say for you. Derek's fist came fast, a wild, angry swing aimed at Marcus's jaw. Marcus didn't dodge, didn't block, just shifted his weight slightly, letting the punch graze past his cheek, using Derek's momentum to guide him off balance. Derek stumbled, nearly fell, caught himself. "You want to try again?" Marcus asked quietly. "Or are we done?" Derek's face was purple with rage. "I'm going to destroy you, old man. I'm going to find out every dirty secret you're hiding, and I'm going to—" "Derek!" Tyler's voice was sharp. "Enough!" Derek whirled on him. "What?" "I said enough!" Tyler's eyes were on Marcus, thoughtful and calculating. "Leave him alone. For now." "Are you serious? After everything? I said for now." Tyler grabbed Derek's arm, pulled him away. "Let's go." Derek resisted for a moment, then let himself be led. But his eyes stayed on Marcus, burning with hatred, promising retribution. Marcus watched them go, his face expressionless. But inside, something was shifting, clicking into place. The old instincts were waking up, stretching, testing their limits. He'd tried to be invisible, tried to be ordinary, tried to be just another tired single dad looking for meaning. It wasn't working. It was never going to work. Because you can't hide who you really are. Not forever. The truth always comes out, in the way you move, the way you shoot, the way you refuse to break no matter how hard they push. The truth was coming, and Marcus was finally ready to face it. That night, alone in the latrine, Marcus stood shirtless in front of the mirror. He twisted, looking over his shoulder at the tattoo that covered his upper back. The coiled viper, fangs bared. The shattered skull beneath it. The mark of Ghost Viper, a unit so secret that even most intelligence agencies denied its existence. He traced the lines with his fingers, remembering the night he'd received it. The pain of the needle, the weight of the honor, the promise he'd made to the man who'd given it to him. "You are my last student," the man had said. "When I'm gone, you carry this forward. You carry us forward." 3 months later, the man was dead. The unit was dissolved, and Marcus had walked away. From the shadows, from the violence, from everything he'd been trained to be. Because a woman named Sarah had just told him she was pregnant, and he wanted to be something more than a ghost. He'd been something more. For 8 beautiful years, he'd been a husband, a father, a man with a life worth living. Then cancer took Sarah, and he was alone again, with a daughter who needed him and a past that wouldn't stop haunting him. He'd come to this camp to prove something, to Lily, to himself, to the world, to prove that he could be brave without being violent, that he could be strong without being dangerous. But maybe that was the wrong lesson. Maybe the real courage wasn't hiding who you were. Maybe it was accepting it. Marcus looked at the tattoo one last time. Then he pulled on his shirt and walked back to his bunk. Tomorrow, he knew, would be different. Tomorrow they would see. He didn't know how it would happen, didn't know what would trigger it, but he could feel it coming. The moment when the mask would slip and the world would see what lay beneath. He wasn't afraid anymore. He was ready. The morning of the combat evaluation started like any other. Marcus woke at 04:45, his body moving on autopilot through the familiar routine. Cold water on his face, boots laced tight, mind clear and focused. But something felt different today. The air had a weight to it, a pressure that pressed against his skin like the atmosphere before a storm. He could feel it coming, the moment he'd been dreading, the moment he'd been preparing for. Today, one way or another, the truth would out. In the training yard, Captain Harrow stood at the center of a circle of recruits, his clipboard in hand, his face carved from stone. Behind him, A row of folding chairs held officers Marcus didn't recognize, brass from other units, observers, evaluators. And at the end of the row, an older man with gray hair and a chest full of medals. A colonel. Marcus didn't know his name, but he recognized the look, the weathered face, the calculating eyes, the posture of a man who'd seen things that couldn't be unseen. The colonel's gaze swept across the recruits, pausing for a moment on Marcus. Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition? Curiosity? Marcus couldn't tell. "Listen up," Harrow barked. "Today's combat evaluation will determine your final rankings. Hand-to-hand, no weapons, submission, or knockout. Pairings are random." He looked at his clipboard. First match, Briggs versus Patterson. Tyler stepped forward, cracking his knuckles. His opponent, a stocky kid named Patterson, looked nervous. The fight lasted 45 seconds. Tyler was fast, aggressive, relentless. Patterson tapped out with his arm bent at an angle that made the watching recruits wince. "Next match," Harrow called. "Holt versus Chen." Derek stepped into the ring, his eyes finding Marcus in the crowd. He smiled, a cold, vicious smile, before turning to face his opponent. That fight lasted 30 seconds. Derek didn't go for a submission. He went for pain. By the time Chen tapped out, he was bleeding from his nose, and his left eye was swelling shut. "Medical," Harrow said flatly, waving over the medics. "Holt, control yourself." "Yes, sir," Derek replied, not sounding sorry at all. The matches continued, win after win, loss after loss, the rankings taking shape. Marcus watched, studying each fighter, cataloging their techniques, their weaknesses, their tells, old habits. Then Harrow called his name. "Cole versus Briggs." The yard went silent. Tyler stepped forward, his eyes locked on Marcus. "Finally," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Time to see what the old man's really made of." Marcus walked into the ring slowly. His body was calm, his breathing steady, but his mind was racing. He knew what was coming, could feel the trajectory of events pulling him toward a collision he couldn't avoid. Tyler wanted answers, wanted to know who Marcus really was. He was about to find out. "Rules," Harrow said, stepping between them. "Clean fight. Submission or knockout. No strikes to the throat or groin. Understand?" "Yes, sir," Tyler said. "Yes, sir," Marcus echoed. Harrow stepped back. "Begin." Tyler moved first. Fast, aggressive, confident. He'd been the camp's best fighter for 3 weeks, undefeated in every match, and he had no intention of losing to a man old enough to be his father. He threw a jab, testing Marcus's defense. Marcus slipped it easily, his head moving just enough to let the fist pass by his cheek. Tyler followed with a cross. A hook. A combination that would have dropped most men. Marcus dodged them all. He didn't counter, didn't strike back, just moved, fluid, precise, economical, like water flowing around stones. The crowd murmured. This wasn't what they expected. "Fight back, old man," Tyler growled, throwing another combination. "Stop running." Marcus said nothing, just kept moving, kept dodging, kept making Tyler chase him. Tyler's frustration mounted. His swings got wilder, his footwork sloppier. He was gassing himself out, burning energy, chasing a ghost. "What's the matter?" Tyler panted. "Scared?" "Patient," Marcus replied calmly. "There's a difference." Tyler roared and charged, throwing everything he had into a massive haymaker. Marcus sidestepped. Tyler's momentum carried him forward, off balance. Before he could recover, Marcus was behind him, one hand on his collar, one hand on his wrist, controlling his movement. "You're good," Marcus said quietly, his mouth close to Tyler's ear. "But you're angry. Anger makes you sloppy. "Get off me!" Tyler twisted, trying to break free. Marcus let him go, stepping back, hands raised. "Come on," Marcus said. "Try again." Tyler's face was red, his chest heaving. He'd never been handled like this. Never been made to look foolish in front of the entire camp. "Who are you?" Tyler demanded. "Who the hell are you?" "I told you. I'm a father." "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer that matters." Tyler charged again. This time, Marcus didn't just dodge. He intercepted. A quick parry, a pivot, a sweep that took Tyler's legs out from under him. Before Tyler hit the ground, Marcus had his arm locked, his knee on Tyler's spine. Full control. 3 seconds, maybe 4. The yard was dead silent. "Tap out," Marcus said, his voice calm. Tyler struggled. The hold tightened. "Tap out," Marcus repeated. "I don't want to hurt you." Tyler's hands slapped the ground. Once. Twice. 3 times. Marcus released him immediately, stepping back. He offered Tyler his hand. Tyler stared at it. His face was a storm of emotions. Shock, humiliation, anger, confusion. He didn't take the hand. Instead, he got to his feet on his own, his eyes never leaving Marcus. "That wasn't regular training," Tyler said, his voice shaking. "That was something else. Something—" "Cole," Harrow's voice cut through the tension. "Impressive. Next match." But Tyler wasn't finished. He stepped toward Marcus, his fists clenched. "I want answers," Tyler said. "Real answers. Not this father crap you keep feeding everyone." "Walk away, Briggs." "No." Tyler grabbed Marcus's shirt, yanking him close. "I've watched you for 3 weeks. I've seen how you move, how you shoot, how you fight. You're not a construction worker. You're not some sad widower looking for meaning. You're a killer. I can see it in your eyes." The yard went completely still. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. "Let go," Marcus said quietly. "Make me." "Briggs," Harrow barked, "stand down!" But Tyler was beyond listening. Weeks of frustration, confusion, and wounded pride had built up into something he couldn't control. He needed to know, needed to understand. His grip tightened on Marcus's shirt. "Show me," Tyler hissed. "Show me who you really are." And then Derek was there. He came from the side, fast and angry, still riding the high from his brutal fight with Chen. Before Marcus could react, Derek grabbed the collar of his shirt from behind and yanked. The fabric tore. The sound was loud in the silence, a ripping, tearing, shredding sound that seemed to go on forever. Marcus felt the air on his back, felt the sudden exposure, felt the weight of 100 eyes turning toward him. The shirt hung in tatters from his shoulders, his back fully exposed. And there it was, the tattoo. A coiled black viper, fangs bared, wrapped around a shattered skull. The ink was faded in places, scarred in others, evidence of wounds that had healed over the design. But the image was unmistakable. The mark of Ghost Viper. The yard didn't just go silent. It went dead. The kind of silence that happens when something fundamental has shifted, when the world has tilted on its axis and everyone knows nothing will ever be the same. Tyler's grip went slack. His hand dropped to his side. Derek stumbled backward, his face pale. And the colonel, the gray-haired officer at the end of the row, rose slowly from his chair. His face was white. Not pale. White. Like he'd seen a ghost. Like he was looking at something that shouldn't exist. He walked forward, his steps slow and deliberate. The other officers watched, confused, as he approached the ring. "Everyone back," he said. His voice was soft, but it carried the weight of absolute authority. The recruits parted for him. Tyler moved aside. Derek practically scrambled out of his way. The colonel stopped in front of Marcus. His eyes were on the tattoo, studying it with an intensity that made the watching recruits uncomfortable. "Turn around," the colonel said. Marcus turned, giving him a better view. The colonel stepped closer. His hand reached out, fingers tracing the lines of the viper, the curves of the skull. His touch was gentle, almost reverent. "I know this mark," the colonel said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've seen it 3 times in my career. Once on a body that washed up in the Gulf. Once on a man I buried in an unmarked grave in Germany." He paused. "And once on the back of the man who trained me." He stepped back, his eyes meeting Marcus's. "Who gave you this?" the colonel asked. The yard was holding its breath. Every recruit, every officer, every instructor, all of them frozen, waiting for the answer. Marcus held the colonel's gaze. "Ghost Viper," Marcus said. "Nathaniel Gray. I was his final student." The colonel's face changed. It was like watching a statue come to life. The stone cracking, the hardness falling away, revealing something raw and human beneath. "Nathaniel Gray is dead," the colonel said. "His unit was dissolved 5 years ago. Everyone who bore that mark is supposed to be gone." "Almost everyone." The colonel stared at him. Then, slowly, deliberately, his hand rose to his forehead. He saluted. Not the casual salute of a superior acknowledging a subordinate. This was a full military salute. Back straight, arm rigid, every muscle held in perfect formation. "Sir," the colonel said. The word hit the crowd like a thunderbolt. Sir. A colonel, a man who outranked everyone in the camp, was calling Marcus Sir. Tyler's mouth fell open. Derek looked like he was going to be sick. Even Harrow, unflappable Harrow, seemed stunned into silence. Marcus didn't return the salute. Instead, he reached up, gently lowered the colonel's arm. "That's not necessary," Marcus said quietly. "I'm not that man anymore." "With respect," the colonel replied, "you'll always be that man. No one who carries that mark ever stops being what Nathaniel Gray made them." Marcus was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with something that might have been grief. "I tried to stop, tried to be someone else. I had a wife, a daughter, a life that didn't involve—" He paused. "But he's right, isn't he? The man who trained me. He said you can never truly leave. The shadows follow you, no matter how far you run." "They do." The colonel's voice was gentle now. "They followed me, too." "You knew Nathaniel Gray?" "I was his first student. Before the unit. Before Ghost Viper. Before any of it." The colonel's eyes glistened. "He was the finest soldier I ever knew. The finest man." He was. They stood there, 2 men connected by a ghost, while the entire camp watched in stunned silence. Then Tyler found his voice. "Wait," Tyler said, stepping forward. Wait. Ghost Viper. As in, the Ghost Viper? The Black Ops unit that doesn't exist? The one they say operated in countries we're not even supposed to know about?" "That unit doesn't exist," the colonel said flatly. "And this conversation didn't happen. Is that clear?" Tyler looked at Marcus, at the tattoo, at the colonel's salute. "But I said, is that clear, cadet?" Tyler swallowed. "Yes, sir." "Good." The colonel turned to address the entire yard. "What you witnessed here today is classified. You saw nothing. You heard nothing. If anyone asks, Marcus Cole is a construction worker from Ohio who joined this training program to challenge himself. Nothing more. Understood?" A murmured chorus of "Yes, sir," rippled through the crowd. But they understood. They all understood. The man they'd mocked, The man they'd hazed. The man they'd called grandpa, and old man, and loser. He was something else entirely. Derek pushed through the crowd, his face twisted with confusion and something that looked like terror. "I don't understand," Derek said. "He's just, we—" He looked at Marcus. "We treated him like garbage for weeks, and he just took it. Why? Why didn't he?" "Because I didn't want to hurt anyone," Marcus said. His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it now. A weight. "Because I came here to prove something to my daughter, not to prove something to you. Because breaking you would have been easy, but staying silent, that was hard. And hard is the only thing worth doing." Derek stared at him. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. "You wanted to know who I am," Marcus continued. "Now you know. I'm a father who made a promise to his little girl. Everything else, the training, the missions, the mark, that's history. That's not who I am anymore." "But you could have destroyed us," Derek whispered. "Any time you wanted." "Yes. Why didn't you?" Marcus looked at him for a long moment. Then he said, "Because that's not what heroes do." Derek's face crumbled. The rage, the arrogance, the cruelty, all of it fell away, leaving something small and ashamed behind. He turned and walked away without another word. Elena approached next, her face thoughtful. "I knew there was something," she said. "I didn't know it was this." "Does it matter?" "I don't know yet." She studied him. "You said you trained under Nathaniel Gray for 6 years. What was that like?" Marcus was quiet for a moment, remembering. "Hard," he finally said. "The hardest thing I've ever done. He broke me down to nothing and built me back up from scratch. Taught me things I didn't think were possible. Pushed me further than I thought I could go." He paused. "And he loved me, in his way, like I was the son he never had." "What happened to him?" "He died, protecting this team on a mission that never officially happened." Marcus's voice caught. "I was supposed to be there, but my wife was sick, and he told me to stay with her. Said family comes first, always. Said the mission could wait." He swallowed. The mission couldn't wait, and he knew it. He went without me because he knew I'd never forgive myself if I wasn't there when Sarah needed me. Elena was silent. "He saved my life twice," Marcus continued. "Once in the field, and once by sending me home. I've spent the last 5 years trying to be worthy of that sacrifice." "Are you?" "I don't know. Some days I think yes. Some days I'm not sure." He looked at her. "That's why I'm here. To find out." The colonel approached, interrupting them. "Cole," he said, "we need to talk. Privately." Marcus nodded. He looked at Elena. "Thank you. For the protein bar. For noticing." She smiled, but there was sadness in it. "Try not to disappear again, okay?" "I'll try." He followed the colonel away from the training yard, toward the administrative building. Behind them, the recruits remained frozen, still processing what they'd witnessed. Inside the colonel's temporary office, the door closed behind them with a soft click. "Sit," the colonel said. Marcus sat. The colonel paced for a moment, gathering his thoughts. Then he stopped, turned, and looked at Marcus with an expression that mixed respect with something harder to define. "I need to know what you're doing here," the colonel said. "The real reason, not the 'prove something to my daughter' speech. The truth." Marcus met his gaze. "That is the truth. That's part of it. What's the rest?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I needed to remember who I was. Not the killer, not the ghost. The man underneath all that. The man Nathaniel believed I could be. And I couldn't find him. Not in the suburbs, not in the office job I tried, not in the endless routine of being a single parent." Marcus's voice dropped. I was disappearing, Colonel. Fading. My daughter looks at me like I'm a hero, and I couldn't remember why. I needed to feel it again. The struggle, the challenge, the push. So you came here. I came here. The colonel nodded slowly. And the hazing, the abuse? You could have ended all of that on day one. I know. Why didn't you? Because violence was always my first instinct. Nathaniel spent 6 years teaching me that it should be my last. Marcus's jaw tightened. Every time I wanted to fight back, I heard his voice. Patient. Wait. Find another way. Violence is a tool, not a solution. He said that to me once. He said it to everyone. It's probably the most important thing he ever taught me. The colonel sat down across from him, his posture relaxing slightly. You know they're going to treat you differently now, he said. The recruits, the instructors, everyone. I know. Is that what you wanted? No, Marcus shook his head. I wanted to be invisible, to be just another tired old man proving something to himself. But I guess Nathaniel was right about that too. About what? You can't hide who you really are. Not forever. The truth always finds a way. They sat in silence for a moment. Two men connected by the same ghost, the same training, the same burden. Then the colonel said, There's something else I need to tell you. What? Nathaniel left instructions. Before he died, he filed paperwork with certain unofficial channels. Instructions about what to do if anyone bearing his mark ever resurfaced. The colonel paused. You're supposed to be offered a choice. What kind of choice? Come back. Lead a new unit. Train the next generation the way he trained us. The colonel met Marcus's eyes. Or walk away. Disappear. Live the quiet life you've been trying to build. Marcus felt the weight of the offer settling onto his shoulders. The shadows he'd been running from, reaching out to pull him back. And if I say no? Then you say no. The offer disappears. You go back to your daughter, your minivan, your construction job, and no one ever contacts you again. Marcus was quiet for a long time. He thought about Lily, her smile, her faith in him, the way she called him hero, like it was his actual name. He thought about Sarah, her last words. Take care of our girl. Be happy. Live. He thought about Nathaniel, his sacrifice, his legacy, the mark on Marcus's back that would never fade. Can I have time to think about it? Marcus asked. Take all the time you need. The colonel stood. But Marcus, whatever you decide, know this. Nathaniel believed you were the best of us. The one who could become something he never could. A warrior with a heart. A killer who chose kindness. He said that? In his last letter, the one he wrote before the final mission. The colonel's voice was thick. He said you were his greatest achievement. Not the kills, not the missions, not the impossible operations. You. Marcus's eyes burned. He blinked, forcing the emotion down. Thank you, he managed, for telling me that. Thank him. He's the one who believed in you. The colonel walked to the door. I'll give you a few minutes. When you're ready, the recruits are waiting. They have questions. You don't have to answer them, but I think you should. He left, closing the door behind him. Marcus sat alone in the quiet room, the weight of the past pressing down on him, the uncertainty of the future stretching out ahead. And somewhere, in the back of his mind, he heard Nathaniel's voice. Patient. Wait. Find another way. He took a deep breath, and he made his choice. Marcus walked out of the administrative building into the afternoon sun. The training yard was exactly as he'd left it. Recruits standing in clusters, officers conferring in hushed tones, the weight of what they'd witnessed still hanging heavy in the air. But now, every eye turned toward him. Every conversation stopped. Every breath seemed to hold. He'd spent 3 weeks trying to be invisible. That was over now. Captain Harrow approached first, his face unreadable. "Cole," Harrow said, "the colonel told me to extend the camp's resources to you. Whatever you need." "I don't need anything, Captain." "You sure about that? Because after what I just saw, I'm thinking maybe we've been wasting your time with basic training." "You haven't been wasting anything," Marcus met his eyes. "I came here to learn, not to teach, not to lead, just to learn." "Learn what? You already know more than anyone here." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I know how to fight, how to survive, how to complete missions in places that don't exist on any map. What I don't know, what I came here to remember, is how to be ordinary, how to struggle without breaking, how to be part of something without taking it over." Harrow stared at him. "That's a hell of a thing to learn." "It's the only thing that matters." Before Harrow could respond, Tyler stepped forward. His face was pale, his usual confidence stripped away, leaving something raw and uncertain behind. "I need to talk to you," Tyler said. His voice was different now. No swagger, no mockery. Just a young man looking for answers. Marcus nodded. "Walk with me." They moved away from the crowd, toward the edge of the yard where the noise faded and the silence felt almost comfortable. Tyler walked beside him, struggling to find words. "I don't understand," Tyler finally said. "Any of it." "What don't you understand?" "Everything." Tyler ran a hand through his hair. "You're Ghost Viper. You trained under Nathaniel Gray, the most legendary Black Ops commander in modern history. You could have destroyed every one of us without breaking a sweat. But instead, you let us mock you, haze you, treat you like garbage." His voice cracked. "Why?" Marcus stopped walking, turned to face him. "Let me ask you something first," Marcus said. "When you were pushing me around, making my life miserable, how did it feel?" Tyler blinked. "What?" "How did it feel? Powerful? Superior? Like you were proving something to yourself?" Tyler's jaw tightened. "I don't know. Maybe. Yeah." "And now? How do you feel now?" The question hung in the air. Tyler looked away, his hands clenching and unclenching at his sides. "Ashamed," he admitted quietly. "I feel ashamed." "Good." Tyler's head snapped back. "Good?" "Shame is the beginning of wisdom." Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. "You thought I was weak because I didn't fight back. You thought my silence was surrender. But do you know what it actually took to stay silent? To absorb every insult, every shove, every humiliation, and not respond with violence? No, I don't." "It took everything I had." Marcus's eyes met his. "Every day I woke up knowing I could end this. One move, one hold, one demonstration of what I'm actually capable of. But every day I chose not to. Because violence was always easy for me. Too easy. And I came here to prove, to myself, to my daughter, that I could be something more than a weapon." Tyler was silent. His face had changed, the arrogance replaced by something that looked almost like respect. "I grew up thinking strength meant dominance," Tyler said slowly. "My father was a general. My grandfather was a general. In my family, you proved yourself by breaking other people down." "And how's that working out for you?" Tyler let out a bitter laugh. "It got me here. Top of my class, undefeated in combat training." He paused. "And not a single person who actually respects me. Not one who would have my back if things got real." "You're figuring it out," Marcus said. "That's something." Figuring what out? That there's a difference between being feared and being trusted, between being powerful and being strong. Marcus started walking again. Your father and grandfather, they might have built careers on dominance. But the soldiers who actually matter, the ones who make a difference, they lead through trust, through sacrifice, through being willing to carry the heaviest burden so others don't have to. Tyler fell into step beside him. Is that what Nathaniel Gray taught you? Among other things. What was he like, Gray? Marcus was quiet for a long moment, memories flickering through his mind like frames of an old film. He was hard, Marcus finally said. The hardest man I've ever known. There were days I thought he was trying to kill me. Days I wanted to quit so badly I could taste it. He paused. But he never asked us to do anything he wouldn't do himself. Never put us in danger he wasn't willing to face. And when the mission went sideways, and it always went sideways, he was the first one through the door and the last one out. That's rare. It's almost non-existent. Marcus looked at him. That's why his mark means something. It's not just a tattoo. It's a promise, a commitment to be that kind of leader, to put others first, always, to carry the weight so your people don't have to. Tyler absorbed this. And you think I could be that kind of leader? I think you could be, if you choose to. Marcus stopped, facing him directly. But it starts with this. Apologize to the people you've hurt. Not because you got caught, not because you're embarrassed, but because you understand now that what you did was wrong. Tyler's face tightened. That's hard. Of course it's hard. That's the point. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Tyler nodded slowly. Okay, he said. Okay, I'll do it. Good. Tyler started to turn away, then stopped. Cole. Marcus? I don't know what to call you now. Marcus is fine. Marcus. Tyler extended his hand. I'm sorry, for everything. I was an ass. Marcus looked at the hand, then at the young man offering it. 3 weeks ago, this same hand had shoved him into walls, knocked trays from his grasp, made his life a constant stream of petty humiliations. He took it. Apology accepted, Marcus said. Now go prove you mean it. Tyler nodded and walked away, his shoulders straighter, his step more purposeful. Marcus watched him go, something shifting in his chest. Not satisfaction exactly. More like hope. The next visitor wasn't as welcome. Derek approached slowly, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. Fear, shame, anger, confusion, all of it warring for dominance behind his eyes. You, Derek said. His voice was rough, uncertain. I don't... He stopped, frustrated. I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything. No, Derek shook his head. No, I need to. I said things about your wife, about your daughter. Things I had no right to say. His voice cracked. I didn't know. I didn't know who you were. Would it have mattered? The question stopped Derek cold. What do you mean? If I wasn't Ghost Viper, Marcus said, if I was just what you thought I was, a tired widower with a 6-year-old daughter, trying to find meaning in his life, would you have treated me differently? Derek opened his mouth, closed it. His face crumbled. No, he admitted. No, I wouldn't have. Then that's what you need to apologize for. Not because I turned out to be dangerous, but because you treated another human being like garbage for no reason other than that you could. Derek's eyes were wet. He looked away, blinking rapidly. "I don't know why I'm like this," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've always been like this, pushing people around, making them feel small so I can feel big. My dad was the same way. His dad before him." He swallowed hard. "I thought that's what strength looked like." "It's not. I know that now." Derek looked at him. Really looked, for the first time since they'd met. "How do I change? How do I become different?" Marcus studied him. Beneath the bravado, beneath the cruelty, he saw something familiar. A boy raised on a diet of toxic masculinity, taught that vulnerability was weakness, that kindness was softness, that the only way to matter was to make others feel like they didn't. He'd seen that boy before, in a mirror 30 years ago. "You start by taking responsibility," Marcus said, "for everything. The good, the bad, the ugly. You stop blaming your father, your upbringing, your circumstances. You own your choices. And then? Then you start making different ones, one at a time, day by day. It's not glamorous, it's not fast, but it's the only way." Derek nodded slowly. Would you be willing to help me?" "Help you how?" "Teach me, train me. Not the combat stuff. Yes, that too, but the other stuff. The patience, the control, the—" He struggled for words. "The being a good person stuff." Despite himself, Marcus felt the corner of his mouth twitch. "The being a good person stuff," he repeated. "Yeah, that." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I'll think about it." That's fair." Derek hesitated, then stuck out his hand. "I'm sorry, Marcus. I truly am." Marcus shook it. "Prove it." Derek walked away, and Marcus stood alone for a moment, processing the weight of the conversations. It was strange. For 3 weeks, he'd been the target, the victim, the one absorbing the punishment. Now, suddenly, he was the teacher, the example, the one others were looking to for guidance. He wasn't sure how he felt about that. Elena found him near the water station, refilling his canteen. "Big day," she said, leaning against the fence beside him. "You could say that." "How are you holding up?" Marcus considered the question. "I'm not sure. It's a lot to process." "I imagine." She paused. "The Colonel's offer. Are you going to take it?" He looked at her sharply. "How do you know about that?" "I have my ways." She smiled, but there was something serious behind it. "I told you before. I know what it's like to hide who you are. I wasn't lying." "Who are you, Elena?" "That's a conversation for another time." She pushed off the fence, straightening. "But I'll tell you this much. Whatever you decide, make sure it's your choice, not the Colonel's, not Nathaniel Gray's ghost. Yours. And if I don't know what my choice is, then you need to figure that out. Fast." She started to walk away, then paused. "Your daughter, Lily, right?" "Yes." "Call her. Talk to her. The answer's in there somewhere." She left before he could respond. That night, Marcus sat alone on his bunk, phone in hand. The barracks were quiet. Most of the recruits were avoiding him, not out of hostility anymore, but out of something closer to awe. They didn't know how to act around him now, didn't know what to say. He understood. He wouldn't have known either. He pressed the video call button. It rang once, twice. Then Lily's face filled the screen, gap-toothed smile and all. "Daddy!" "Hey, sweetheart." His voice was thick. "How's my favorite girl?" "I'm good.
Aunt Sarah let me have ice cream for dinner."
"She did, huh? I'm going to have to talk to her about that." Lily giggled.
"Don't be mad, Daddy. It was only a little ice cream. And some pizza. And maybe some cookies."
"Lily."
"What? I'm a growing girl."
Marcus laughed, a real laugh, the first one in weeks. It felt foreign in his throat, like a muscle that had atrophied from disuse. "I miss you, baby," he said. "So much."
"I miss you too, Daddy."
Her face grew serious, the way only a 6-year-old's can.
"Are you being brave?"
The question hit him like a punch to the chest. "I'm trying, sweetheart. I'm trying really hard."
"That's good. Trying is important."
She nodded sagely.
"Mommy always said that. She said the trying is what matters, not the winning."
Marcus closed his eyes. Sarah's voice echoed in his memory. The trying is what matters. The showing up. The not giving up.
"Daddy, are you crying?"
He opened his eyes. His cheeks were wet. "A little bit, baby. But they're happy tears."
"Oh, good. I don't like sad tears."
She leaned closer to the camera.
"Daddy, can I tell you a secret?"
"Of course."
"I drew you another picture. It's you fighting bad guys. You have a cape and everything."
"A cape, huh?"
"Uh-huh. Because you're a superhero. Aunt Sarah said you used to do special secret stuff before I was born. Is that true?"
Marcus's breath caught. He looked at the phone, at his daughter's innocent face, and felt the weight of his past pressing against the weight of his present. "Yes, baby," he said softly. "A long time ago, Daddy did some special, secret stuff." "Were you brave then, too?" "I tried to be."
"Did you help people?"
Marcus thought about the missions, the impossible operations, the lives saved, the lives taken, the moral mathematics that never quite balanced out. "Sometimes, baby, I tried to help people."
"That's good."
Lily yawned, her eyelids growing heavy.
"Daddy, will you come home soon?"
"Soon, sweetheart. Very soon."
"Promise?"
"I promise."
"Okay."
Another yawn.
"I love you, Daddy. I love you more than all the stars in the sky."
"I love you too, baby. More than you'll ever know."
"Night-night."
"Night-night, sweetheart." The screen went dark. Marcus sat in the silence, phone clutched in his hands, tears running freely down his face. He thought about the colonel's offer, the chance to go back, to lead a new unit, to train the next generation in Nathaniel Gray's image. He thought about Lily, her smile, her faith, the way she looked at him like he was a superhero, even when he felt like a failure. He thought about Sarah, her last words. "Take care of our girl. Be happy. Live." And he knew, with sudden and absolute clarity, what his choice was. The next morning, Marcus requested a meeting with the colonel. They met in the same office, the same chairs, the same heavy silence that seemed to follow the man everywhere. "You've made your decision," the colonel said. It wasn't a question. "I have." "And?" Marcus took a deep breath. "I'm honored by the offer, truly. And there's a part of me that wants to say yes. A big part. The training, the missions, the purpose. I miss it. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. But I have a daughter, a 6-year-old who lost her mother and has only me left. And I made her a promise, not just to be brave, but to be there, to show up, to not disappear into the shadows again." The colonel was quiet. "I can't lead a new unit," Marcus continued. "I can't train operatives. I can't go back to the life I left behind, because if I do, I'll lose her. Maybe not physically, but in every way that matters. She'll grow up the way I grew up, wondering where her father is, why he's always gone, whether he's alive or dead. I understand. I'm not saying no forever, Marcus added. Maybe someday, when she's older, when she understands. But right now, she needs me, and I need her. The colonel nodded slowly. Nathaniel would be proud of you. You think so? I know so. The colonel stood, extending his hand. He always said the hardest missions weren't the ones in the field. They were the ones at home, the ones that required you to choose love over duty. He never had the courage to make that choice himself. Marcus took his hand. Neither did I, until now. Then you've grown. That's something. They shook. Two men connected by a ghost, parting as something close to equals. One more thing, the colonel said as Marcus turned to leave. Yes? You said you came here to prove something to your daughter, to remember what bravery looked like. I did. Did you find it? Marcus paused at the door. He thought about the past 3 weeks. The hazing, the humiliation, the constant pressure to fight back, to prove himself, to unleash the violence that lived inside him. And he thought about the choices he'd made instead. The patience, the restraint, the determination to be better than his worst impulses. Yeah, he said quietly. I think I did. He walked out without looking back. The rest of the day passed in a blur of conversations. Tyler, making good on his promise, publicly apologizing to the recruits he'd mistreated. Derek, awkward and sincere, trying to figure out who he wanted to be. Elena, watching from the sidelines, a small smile on her face. And everywhere Marcus went, the whispers followed. But they were different now. Not mocking, not cruel. Something closer to reverent. He didn't want reverence. He just wanted to finish what he'd started. That afternoon, Harrow called him into his office. The colonel's recommendation came through, Harrow said, sliding a paper across the desk. You've been granted honorary instructor status, effective immediately. Marcus looked at the paper. His name, typed neatly in official font. A title he'd never asked for. I don't want to teach, he said. I know, but the recruits need something. They've been turned upside down. Everything they thought they knew has been shattered. They need someone to help them put the pieces back together. And you think that someone is me? I think you're the only one who can. Harrow leaned back. 1 week, just 1 week. Help them understand what they witnessed. Help them become better soldiers and better people. Then you can go home to your daughter. Marcus stared at the paper for a long moment. 1 week, 7 days, then home. He could do that. Fine, he said. 1 week. Thank you. Harrow stood, extending his hand. And Cole, for what it's worth, I'm sorry too, for how I treated you at the beginning. You deserved better. We all deserve better, Marcus replied. That's kind of the point. They shook hands, and Marcus walked out into the afternoon sun, ready to begin the final chapter of his time at the camp. He had 1 week to make a difference. He intended to make it count. The first morning of Marcus's teaching began before dawn. He stood in the center of the training yard, watching the recruits file out of the barracks. They moved differently now, slower, more uncertain, like they weren't sure what to expect. The swagger was gone. The mockery was gone. In their place was something that looked almost like fear. Marcus didn't want their fear. He wanted something else entirely. Circle up, he said. His voice was calm, conversational. No barking, no shouting, just words. They formed a circle around him, 63 recruits, standing at attention, waiting. At ease. He waited until they relaxed, then continued. I'm not going to pretend the last few weeks didn't happen. You know who I am now. You know what I'm capable of. And I know you're probably wondering why I'm standing here instead of making your lives miserable the way you made mine. Silence. A few recruits shifted uncomfortably. The answer is simple, Marcus said. I'm not interested in revenge. I'm not interested in proving I'm better than you. I already know I'm better trained. That's not arrogance, it's just fact. What I don't know is whether I'm a better person. That's what I came here to find out. Tyler, standing near the front, spoke up. Did you find out? Marcus looked at him. I found out that being better trained doesn't matter if you're not willing to be better. And being willing to be better is hard. Harder than any mission I ever ran. Harder than anything Nathaniel Gray ever asked me to do. He began to walk the circle, making eye contact with each recruit in turn. This week, I'm going to teach you some things. Combat techniques, tactical thinking, the kind of skills that might save your life someday. But that's not the most important lesson. The most important lesson is this: strength without character is just violence. And violence without purpose is just destruction. He stopped walking, returning to the center. You can be the most dangerous person in the room and still be weak. You can know 100 ways to kill someone and still be a coward. The measure of a soldier isn't what they can do. It's what they choose to do. And more importantly, what they choose not to do. Derek raised his hand hesitantly.
How do you know which choice is right?
You don't, not always. Sometimes you make the wrong choice and people get hurt. Sometimes you make the right choice and people still get hurt. That's the burden of leadership, of being responsible for others. Marcus's voice softened. But here's what I've learned. When you're not sure what to do, ask yourself one question. What would the person I want to be do? Not the person I am, the person I want to be. And then do that thing, even if it's hard, especially if it's hard. He clapped his hands. Enough philosophy. Let's train. The days that followed were unlike anything the camp had seen before. Marcus didn't teach the way traditional instructors taught. He didn't bark orders or punish failure. Instead, he demonstrated, explained, guided. When a recruit struggled, he worked with them one-on-one until they understood. When they succeeded, he acknowledged it without fanfare and moved on to the next challenge. And he pushed them hard. The combat drills were more intense than anything they'd experienced. The tactical exercises more complex. The physical demands higher. But through it all, Marcus maintained that same calm, steady presence. Never angry, never frustrated, never disappointed. Again, he'd say when someone failed, not with contempt, with patience. And they'd try again, and again, and again, until they got it right. By the third day, something had shifted. The recruits weren't just training harder, they were training differently. The competitive edge that had defined the camp's culture was giving way to something else. Cooperation. Support. The understanding that everyone succeeded together or failed together. Tyler and Derek, once the camp's chief antagonists, became unlikely partners. Marcus paired them together for a complex tactical exercise, forcing them to work as a team. At first, the tension was palpable, old habits dying hard. But by the end, something had changed. Not bad, Tyler said, extending his hand to Derek as they crossed the finish line. Derek looked at the hand, then at Tyler, then took it. You too. It wasn't friendship. Not yet. But it was a start. Elena found Marcus that evening, sitting alone behind the equipment shed. His spot. The place where he went when the weight of everything became too much. You're doing something special, she said, sitting down beside him. I'm just teaching.
No, you're transforming them. I've seen a lot of training programs, a lot of instructors. None of them did what you're doing.
Marcus shook his head. I'm not doing anything. They're doing it. I'm just showing them it's possible.
That's leadership.
Maybe. He looked at her. You never told me who you really are. Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she said, My name isn't Elena. It's classified, like everything else about me. I was sent here to observe, to evaluate, to determine whether this program was worth continuing. And I've made my recommendation, she smiled. The program stays, with some significant modifications based on what I've observed this week. What kind of modifications? The kind that emphasize character alongside capability. The kind that understands strength isn't just physical, it's moral, ethical, spiritual, she paused. The kind that Nathaniel Gray would have approved of. Marcus absorbed this. You knew him? I knew of him. Everyone in my world did. He was a legend, not because of his kill count, but because of what he stood for. The belief that warriors could be honorable, that violence could be restrained by virtue. She looked at Marcus. You're carrying that forward, whether you know it or not. I'm just trying to be a good father. And that's exactly the point. She stood, brushing off her pants. The best warriors aren't the ones who fight for glory, or country, or ideology. They're the ones who fight for the people they love, because that love makes them stronger, more focused, more willing to do whatever it takes. She started to walk away, then paused. Marcus? Yes? Your daughter is lucky to have you. She left before he could respond. On the 5th day, Marcus received a visitor. He was in the middle of a hand-to-hand demonstration when he saw the minivan pull into the lot. His minivan, the one with the crayon drawings on the dashboard and the child seat in the back. His heart stopped. His sister Sarah stepped out of the driver's side, and from the passenger side, a small figure emerged, brown pigtails bouncing, gap-toothed smile beaming, legs already running toward the training yard. Daddy! Marcus broke from the circle without thinking. He crossed the yard in seconds, dropping to his knees just as Lily crashed into him, her small arms wrapping around his neck with surprising strength. Baby, he breathed, holding her tight. What are you doing here? Surprise! Lily pulled back, her face radiant. Aunt Sarah said I could come see you. She said you've been being super brave, and I wanted to see. Marcus looked over her head at his sister, who was walking toward them with a smile. She wouldn't stop asking, Sarah said. Every day. When can I see Daddy? When can I see Daddy? I figured one visit wouldn't hurt. Marcus's throat was tight. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank her. She's the one who wore me down. Lily tugged at Marcus's sleeve. Daddy, are these your friends? He looked up. The recruits had gathered at a respectful distance, watching the reunion with expressions that ranged from curious to moved. Tyler stood at the front, a small smile on his face. Yes, baby, Marcus said. These are my friends. Can I meet them? Before Marcus could answer, Lily had wriggled free and was marching toward the group with all the confidence of a 6-year-old who had never learned to be afraid of anything. Hi, she announced, stopping in front of Tyler. I'm Lily. My daddy is a superhero. Tyler crouched down to her level. Is that so? Uh-huh. He's really brave. He fights bad guys and helps people, and he promised to always come home. She looked at Tyler with startling intensity. Are you brave too? Tyler glanced at Marcus, then back at Lily. I'm trying to be. Your dad's teaching me. That's good. Trying is important, she nodded sagely. My mommy always said that. Your mommy sounds like a smart lady. She was. Lily's face grew serious. She's in heaven now, but she still watches us. I drew her a picture so she can see Daddy being brave. Tyler's eyes were suspiciously bright. That's really nice, Lily.
Thank you.
She turned to survey the rest of the recruits.
Are all of you my daddy's friends?
A chorus of yeses rippled through the group. Even Derek, standing at the back, nodded.
Good.
Lily marched back to Marcus and took his hand.
Daddy, can I stay and watch you teach?
Marcus looked at Harrow, who had emerged from the administrative building. The captain nodded slightly. Sure, baby, you can watch. What followed was the strangest training session in the camp's history. Marcus demonstrated combat techniques, while his 6-year-old daughter sat on the sidelines, providing commentary.
Daddy, that was cool. Daddy, why did that man fall down? Daddy, can you teach me that move?
The recruits, hardened soldiers in training, found themselves completely disarmed by her presence. There was something about having a child there, innocent, joyful, completely unimpressed by rank or reputation, that stripped away all pretense. When Derek executed a particularly clean takedown, Lily clapped enthusiastically.
Good job, Mr. Derek.
Derek's face flushed. Thank you, Lily.
You're welcome.
She turned to Marcus.
Daddy, he's getting better.
He is, baby. He's working really hard.
That's good.
Working hard is important, she frowned. But not too hard. You need to have fun, too. That's what Mommy always said. Marcus felt his chest tighten. She did say that, didn't she?
Uh-huh.
She said life isn't just about being brave. It's about being happy, too. Lily looked up at him.
Are you happy, Daddy?
The question hung in the air. 63 recruits held their breath, waiting for the answer. Marcus crouched down, taking his daughter's hands in his. I wasn't, he admitted. For a long time, I wasn't happy at all. I missed Mommy. I missed who I used to be. I felt lost and tired and like I didn't know how to keep going. But now? Now, he smiled, his eyes wet. Now I'm getting there. Because of you. Because you remind me every day what's worth fighting for. What's worth living for. Lily threw her arms around his neck.
I love you, Daddy.
I love you too, sweetheart. More than anything in the world. They held each other while the camp watched, and something shifted in the air. A collective understanding that this, right here, was what it was all about. Not the training, not the missions, not the glory or the fear or the violence. This. Love. Family. The people who made everything else worthwhile. Tyler wiped his eyes. Derek looked away, his jaw tight. Even Harrow seemed moved. Sarah stepped forward, gentle but firm. Okay, sweetheart. Let Daddy get back to work. You can watch from over here with me. Lily released Marcus reluctantly.
Okay, but Daddy?
Yes, baby?
When you're done, can we get ice cream?
Marcus laughed, a real, full laugh that echoed across the training yard. Absolutely, baby. All the ice cream you can eat. The last 2 days passed in a blur of training and preparation. Marcus worked the recruits harder than ever, pushing them to their limits and then beyond. But now there was a different energy in the camp, a sense of purpose that went beyond individual achievement. They were becoming a unit, a team, something stronger than the sum of its parts. On the final evening, Harrow called the entire camp together. As you know, he said, tomorrow marks the end of Cadet Cole's time with us. Before he goes, I wanted to give you all a chance to say whatever you need to say. Tyler stepped forward first. I spent 3 weeks trying to break you, he said to Marcus. I thought I was proving how strong I was. I thought I was showing everyone that I couldn't be challenged. But all I was really doing was showing how weak I was. How scared. He swallowed. You taught me that real strength isn't about dominating others. It's about lifting them up. And I'm going to spend the rest of my career trying to live up to that. Derek was next. I said terrible things about your family, Derek admitted. Things I had no right to say. Things that came from a dark place inside me that I didn't even know existed. His voice cracked. You could have destroyed me for that. You had every right to. But instead, you helped me. You saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. I don't know if I'll ever be able to repay that, but I'm going to try. One by one, the recruits came forward, each with their own words, their own apologies, their own commitments. Elena was last. I've spent my career evaluating soldiers, she said, assessing their capabilities, determining their worth. But I've never met anyone like you, Marcus Cole. You showed me that the most important things can't be measured, can't be quantified, can't be written in a report. She smiled. You reminded me why we do this, why any of it matters. And for that, I'm grateful. Marcus stood before them all, overwhelmed. I don't know what to say, he admitted. I came here expecting to be tested physically. I wasn't prepared to be tested in all the other ways. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I've spent most of my life learning how to fight, how to survive, how to complete missions. But I never learned how to live. Not really. Not until I had Lily. Not until I lost Sarah. Not until I was forced to figure out who I was without the shadows. He looked at each of them in turn. You tested me in ways I didn't expect. The hazing, the mockery, the constant pressure to prove myself through violence. Every day I wanted to fight back. Every day I had to choose not to. And every day that choice made me stronger. His voice grew thick. I'm not a hero. I'm just a man trying to keep a promise to his daughter. Trying to show her that strength isn't about what you can destroy. It's about what you can build, what you can protect, what you can love. He straightened, squaring his shoulders. Whatever you take from this week, I hope it's this. Be the person you want to be, not the person the world expects you to be. Choose kindness when cruelty would be easier. Choose patience when violence would be faster. Choose love when hate would be simpler. Those choices, those hard, painful, daily choices, that's what makes you strong. That's what makes you human. That's what makes you worthy of the uniform you'll someday wear. He snapped to attention. It's been an honor serving with you. Now go make me proud. The next morning, Marcus packed his bag. There wasn't much to pack. The same worn backpack he'd arrived with, the same clothes, the same old boots. But as he zipped it closed, he felt different. Lighter. Like he'd set down a burden he'd been carrying for years without realizing it. Lily was waiting outside, bouncing with excitement.
Daddy, Daddy, are we going home now?
Yes, baby, we're going home.
Can I sit in the front seat?
No, sweetheart. You have to sit in your car seat. Aw, man, Marcus laughed, scooping her up and spinning her around. Her giggles filled the morning air. The recruits had gathered to see him off. Tyler and Derek stood at the front, side by side. Something that would have been unthinkable 3 weeks ago. Take care of yourself, old man, Tyler said, extending his hand. Take care of each other, Marcus replied, shaking it. That's the only thing that matters. Derek stepped forward, awkward but sincere. I meant what I said, about trying to be better. I know you did, and I'll be watching, Marcus smiled. Don't make me come back here. Yes, sir. Elena approached last, her expression unreadable. Will I see you again? Marcus asked. Maybe, in another life. She leaned in, kissing his cheek lightly. Be happy, Marcus Cole. You've earned it. He nodded, not trusting his voice. Harrow shook his hand. The colonel, who had returned for the occasion, saluted. Marcus returned the salute. the last one he would ever give. Then he turned, took Lily's hand, and walked toward the minivan. The crayon drawings were still on the dashboard. The child seat was still in the back. Everything was exactly as he'd left it 3 weeks ago. But he wasn't the same man who had driven in. "Daddy?" Lily asked as he buckled her into her seat. "Yes, sweetheart?" "Were you brave?" Marcus looked at her innocent eyes, her trusting smile, her absolute faith in him. "I tried to be, baby. I tried really hard." "Did you win?" He thought about the question, about everything he'd endured, everything he'd learned, everything he'd become. "Yeah," he said finally. "I think I did." "Good," she yawned, settling into her seat. "I knew you would, Daddy. You're my superhero." Marcus kissed her forehead, closed the door, and walked around to the driver's side. As he started the engine, he looked in the rearview mirror. The recruits were still standing there, watching him go. Tyler raised a hand in farewell. Derek nodded. Elena smiled. He nodded back, put the car in drive, and pulled away. The road stretched out ahead of him, long and empty and full of possibility. Beside him, the photo of Sarah was still tucked into the sun visor. He touched it lightly with his fingers. "I did it," he whispered. "I kept my promise." In the back seat, Lily was already asleep, her small hand clutching the stuffed rabbit she'd brought from home. Marcus drove on, the morning sun warming his face, the weight of the past finally releasing its grip. He thought about Nathaniel Gray, about the mark on his back, about the legacy he carried. He thought about Sarah, about her last words, about the life she'd wanted for him. And he thought about Lily, about the future stretching out before them, about all the days they would share, the good ones and the bad ones, the easy ones and the hard ones. He didn't know what came next, didn't know what challenges awaited, didn't know if he'd ever fully escape the shadows of his past. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He was going home, to his daughter, to his life, to the person he'd always wanted to be. And that was enough. That was everything. The minivan disappeared over the horizon, leaving behind a training camp full of young soldiers who had learned something no manual could teach them. That strength isn't measured in victories. That courage isn't the absence of fear. That the bravest thing a man can do is love someone more than himself. And that sometimes the greatest warriors are the ones who choose to put down their weapons and pick up their children instead. Marcus Cole was never seen at the camp again. But his legend lived on, passed from recruit to recruit, year after year, growing with each telling. The story of the single father who drove in with a minivan and crayon drawings. The story of the man who let himself be mocked and humiliated and broken. The story of the warrior who proved that true strength isn't what you can destroy, it's what you can love.